thank you all for coming. I'd like to give a shout out to WCN for hosting these expos, because this is a way for me to thank all of our financial partners and all of you in the room for supporting our work. And I'd like to show you what our in situ partners are doing. Financial partners and in situ partners working together all across the world. So fasten your seatbelt, low and tight across your hips, and let's go. I'm Jim Sanderson, the founder and director of the Small Wildcat Conservation Foundation, and this is my colleague,
Badru Mugerwa from Uganda. I'm founder and director of a small local community-led conservation organization, but also director for the African Golden Cat Conservation Alliance.
That's us. There's Mbaka. We work all around the world with their small cats. So there are 33 species of small cats. Aga takes care of the Andean cat and some of the other smaller cats there. But these red dots represent our projects, and there are multiple projects at each of those red dots. We probably have more than 250 projects around the world reducing threats to small wild cats.
And in Africa, we have 30 conservation projects across 19 countries of the 22 non-range countries of the African golden cat.
Everywhere we work, our first line of defense is to work with rescue centers, so that when we have an injured cat or a cat that's found along the road struck by a vehicle but is just dazed, we know where to go before we get started. We have to know where to take these cats, who to call before it ever happens, because it's gonna happen. So this little margay was rescued in the floods that were happening in Brazil. It was clinging to a log, getting beat up at a log jam. We called our partners, they rescued it, brought it to the vet center, it was treated, and here's the result. No small cat left behind. If we can get them to these rescue centers, they'll live. Moreover, all of these rescue centers are our partners, and most of them are volunteers. Here's a little weenia. I have a special place in my heart for weenias because I did my PhD on them. This little guy's name is Fosforito. He was rescued from a fire. You can see his eyes are not yet opened. His mother's body burned in the fire, was protecting him, and someone noticed this body moving, and they rescued this kitten. They took it to our rescue center in Chile, southern Chile, and that video was of him being released into the wild. If we can get them to our rescue centers, we can save them, and we know where to go before it ever happens.
True. In Uganda, we work with rescue centers to rescue African golden cats from hunters and from forests which are being converted for firewood collection, for agriculture. We bring them there to give them a second chance.
Everywhere we work, we create networks of volunteers. So this is Ashan Tudugulas. He was a previous guest here. Some of you maybe remember him. Every summer, he offers youth camps. And these youth camps give young people an opportunity to experience what we do in conservation. Most of them learn biology in a book. They never get out into the field. Every summer, Ashan offers these youth camps, and he's created a network of young people who have cell phones, eyes and ears across all of Sri Lanka. Same thing in Chile where we work. Here's a picture of the Cola Cola camp that my colleague Carlos Castro offers every winter. We mobilize youth to put pressure on government to do what they say that they're supposed to do. We can raise a voice, but the youth voice is much louder and a little more active, shall we say? So here, the fishing cat was supposed to be, they were nominating the fishing cat for the state animal of West Bengal. And through these student efforts that Tayasa Adhaya organized, that actually happened. My colleague in Pakistan, he has not started university yet, created a network all across Pakistan to protect the small wild cats. They have 8 species, can you believe? And he's put together this network, what he calls nodes, or the red, where he has go-to partners, all across Pakistan. Marinia in the Andes of Peru organized a group called Quechua Women for Conservation. So she's a Quechua-speaking, she was born and raised Quechua, and she wanted to mobilize these women that otherwise don't have a voice to protect the cats there. They have Andean cat, pampas cat, and pumas. And each of these women here can tell you stories about seeing each one of these cats. Now they're organized under Marinia's leadership. She's, I think, 25, and she's one determined Quechua woman.
Yeah, in Africa, we have been able to mobilize over 8,000 local families to support the conservation work we do for the African golden cat.
Well, here's a problem we face everywhere there are small cats. This is an example of a threat. Here's the threat. It's called retaliatory killing. It's not hard to imagine that this guy that raises chickens is not too happy about this Jaffroy's cat taking chickens. And this goes on every night. This video was filmed by Felipe Peters so that we could show him what was happening. Our approach is to buy the materials for him to fix his own hen house. So we show him the video, he sees how the cat's entering the cage, and we buy the material, he can fix his own hen house. Remarkably, everywhere in the world, no two hen houses are the same. So we don't fix them. We buy the materials for people to fix their own hen houses. And that prevents the retaliatory killing. In Nepal, it's fishing cats and people fish raising fish in their backyards. A fishing cat takes a fish from somebody's backyard. That's a dead fishing cat. My colleague Ganesh Puri works in the forestry department, and his approach was to create a guard staff and to fine people for breaking the law, for killing a fishing cat. I had a little conversation with him and said, you know, Badru and I know that the carrot works better than the stick. So I want you to think about creating a fish farm so that when people lose fish, you can have the farmers there replace their fish. Pretty simple. The carrot. Well, you can see who among them is the most happy. Ganesh, in the middle. And now he's been raised up in the forestry department. He has 12 people working under him, and they're creating fish banks everywhere there are fishing cats, making happy people help us do our conservation. It's not hard. We have to think about what we're doing and make the lives of rural people easier, and they'll help us in conservation, and we do this everywhere we work. Here's my colleague Ogi in Mongolia. Some of you have met him. And he's asking this little kid to name the marmots that we were releasing. It turns out that the manul den in burrows made by marmots. And the marmots had been extirpated by poaching. They were all killed out. And in order to confer total immunity on the marmots from poaching, the little kids had to give them a name. No poacher would poach a little kid's marmot. And the impact is so great. I think the kids are all interested, the parents are interested, but look at Ogi. He's smiling. And he was profoundly impacted by the kids naming the marmots. So it really works.
So hunting for bushmeat is the key threat to the African golden cat across its range. So what we do, we work with 3,000 school kids to have a conversation about hunting and the dangers of hunting. Next. But we also provide them with alternatives to bushmeat. So we use livestock, sometimes it speaks.
You can see the little logo there on the building.
Sometimes it's goats. And through this project, we call the Livestock for Bushmeat program. We've engaged nearly 3,000 local hunters in such activities to discourage them from continuing from hunting, but at the same time, they can still access the meat. Effectively addressing a threat needs to understand their root causes. Income is one of the key drivers for hunting. So we started 3 years ago a small loan program, which allows local communities to access a small loan from these groups. They take it at a very, very small, low interest rate, only 8%, compared to the 22% at the national level. They bring back this interest, which they channel back into their programs. So the money they loan continues to run the projects which they implement.
And these loan programs are run locally by the community. If we ran it, they would fail. But when the community runs it, they succeed.
Correct.
They help people pay back their loans.
And this is one of our favorite activities because conservation and the threats to conservation are social problems. So what we do, we provide services to these communities which they desperately need and they can't access them. This is a mobile dental clinic in one of the villages where we work. We show up in these satellite mobile dental clinics and we deliver free oral and dental health care to these local hunters in exchange for their support for conservation of the African golden cat. We have delivered so far this service to close to 1,000 local people in the communities.
Everywhere we work, disease from domestic cats and dogs is a threat. And so we have various programs in Mexico and throughout South America to deliver vaccination and neutering campaigns in the rural villages where we work. Disease transmission from domestic cats and dogs is a hidden threat to all the small cats in the Americas. We have ocelots with mange, jaguarundis with mange, huinas with feline leukemia virus. It's the threat of these diseases that's secretly wiping out a lot of the wild cats. So we need these vaccination and neutering campaigns, and they're all volunteer. All volunteer. In Mexico, they can line up 100 dogs, and the veterinary students can neuter them all in a day. There's no monkeying around. And the rural people welcome it. We ask them, why do you have so many dogs, you know? You don't need this many dogs. They don't want that many dogs. Here in Peru, the local TV station filmed our vaccination and neutering campaign, and then the government decided, hey, why don't we do that? So local government now is offering the same program that we started. These governments have money for conservation. They just don't know how to spend it. So that when we step in and do something, often they imitate what we do. Just follow us. Do what we did.
In Africa, charcoal burning or fuelwood collection is a key threat to the habitat of the African golden cat. So to solve this threat, we've planted over 3,000 indigenous tree species to provide alternatives for household energy in terms of fuelwood and charcoal. Everywhere
we work, we have meetings with our local partners, with the rescue centers that we work with. We get everybody together, and you can see there's David Vasquez from WCN right in the middle of the picture. David was there. It's vital that we get people together. Oftentimes, these people work alone. It's difficult work. But when they all get together and they all talk about similar threats and similar approaches, or this worked for me, this didn't work for me, it energizes everybody in the room. And typically, we have about 4 or 5 days of these meetings. We have no schedule for our meetings. They're our meetings. Anybody that wants to talk gets up and gives a presentation. Everybody gets a chance. But it's open-ended. Some presentations are half an hour, some are an hour and a half. It's okay. It's our meeting. Let the people talk. I love it.
Yes, these are some of my colleagues from the AGCCA, as we call ourselves. We have already held such of 2 meetings. The first one was 2021, and the last one was just last year.
Everywhere we work, we let conservation needs push our research, motivate our research. Here we showed that in a paper recently published that there, instead of 2 tiger cat species, there are actually 3 tiger cat species. and it's irrefutable. We covered all the bases. So I expect a new small cat. I expect 4 more in addition, because the pampas cat is not 1 species, but 5 species. So I just told you about 1 new tiger cat, 4 new pampas cats. Look at them. They're all different. They all occupy different habitats, and their DNA shows they're all distinct. Look at these beautiful pampas cats in Chile. You can see the snow in the background. Absolutely stunning small, but all small cats are stunning. You saw the video that Aga had. Who can't like Andean cats, right?
So starting this year, we are starting a species range-wide camera trap survey to help us monitor the impacts of our community-led conservation actions. We will be looking for African golden cats, and that's me trying to be one.
I've got a couple videos for you. I call this one Oops. We're almost done here. Now, I think some of you went on our Manuel tour and saw this too. Here's another video. I think you just saw this one. Anybody can guess?
And this is the African golden cat.
Looks like he escaped from a hen house. Here are those 6 Manuel kittens that we saw. You remember, Vivian? Here's a weenia with a little kitten. And here's the fishing cats.
And the African golden cat asking if you have any questions.
Conservation is a social science. We work with children to change the future, and we work with parents to make sure there is a future. Practical, pragmatic, sustainable, and scalable solutions are out there, and they work. We can implement these things and move from place to place to place. It just takes time. Thank you.